is this vehicle here? Well, obviously it's a Volvo, but all blacked out here in this black edition. Pretty unusual, but I think looks quite stunning, doesn't it? And it's also technically the first review of the Volvo EX40. Wait a minute, now you think, I have seen this vehicle basically, and you are right, because the Volvo XC40, which is still available as like plug-in hybrid, petrol, mild hybrid and so on, they now switched the all-electric one to EX40. So they switched the naming to be more in line of the EX30, the new small EV, which is 20 centimeters or 8 inches shorter than this one here, or also the all-new big one, the EX90, which will also soon drive for you, will also be built in the US actually. And here the EX40 now, the EV of the XC40, in line with the rest of the naming, and this here in the black edition and also in the new all-wheel drive performance trim, so the quickest one that is available for this very vehicle. We're going to take a look here. It's Thomas from Autogefuehl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go. Closed grille in this EV version, but this black scheme is also available for the other engine versions here, for the XC40 then in this case. But here the EX40, same length, also 4 meters 43 or 174 inches, 20-inch wheels in black here in this black edition as well. I think it suits the vehicle very well. We've seen these black editions a lot, like with Audi, BMW, Mercedes and so on. Not so many times with Volvo, but I think it works, doesn't it? Or what do you think? Tell me in the comments. Either a rear-wheel drive version, because like a year ago they switched from a predominantly front-wheel electric version to rear-wheel drive to give it a little bit more agility, better performance and so on. So the rear-wheel drive version, here only the motor, or today the all-wheel drive version, which also has an electric motor in the front as well. Rear PSM, front one asynchronous, so in the rear we have more performance. In the front you don't have so much resistance when it's just rolling, when it's not powered, so that is like a for better efficiency gain overall. The acceleration figures are 7.3 seconds for the rear-wheel drive version or 4.8 seconds for the all-wheel drive, and now with the performance 4.6 seconds, so even quicker. We will also test that for you today. You have a special performance mode in the infotainment system which you have to select, then you get the maximum horsepower output now at 400, a little bit over 440 horsepower. Then towards the rear, typical rear tail lamps like these vertical ones with the Volvo SUVs, and even the Volvo badge here is all blacked out. Top speed 180 kilometers an hour or 112 miles per hour, and the battery size is either at 66 kilowatt hours net or 79 kilowatt hours net. So for the rear-wheel drive version you can go optionally for the bigger battery. With the all-wheel drive versions you always get the bigger battery. Real world range, concise consumption and so on we will test later and tell you at the end of the review. Recharging 28 minutes, 10 to 80% state of charge, here with the DC charging, which has a 150 kilowatt peak. We're now taking your bets for, is there a Frunk or not? Ah, yeah, there's one. Oh, even with a nice felt covering on the inside. Front lamps here, by the way, in the Source Hammer LED design, and these are also the pixel lights, so this is the matrix LED technology. Also interesting that here the electric version gets an exclusive update for frequency selective damping. That means when it's normal like straight road or like long waves, it's rather stiff from suspension, but when you have like fast impact like potholes or cobblestones, then the suspension gets a little bit softer, so it's passively adaptive. You cannot switch the driving mode and then it reacts or something. That would be an active adaptive suspension, but let's say passive adaptive. And it's for the EV only. Why? It has added weight, and so they said, hey, we want to keep the same amount of comfort and sportiness at the same time, also for the electric version, which has more weight, and we'll see in the driving part if that works out. This is the Volvo car key, pretty light, and then the door closing sound is, I would say, okay, nothing special, not bad, but awesome. Oh, the rear is actually better. The rear is nice, the front is like so la-la. And here in the lower part is actually cool. Look at that, how, like it covers all the way in the lower ground. And that's why then the inside should also stay clean. And also talking about the inside of the doors, here all the way felt covering from the inside. I really like that styling here, pretty cool. And also here you have these three-dimensional elements and soft touch then on the top part with the structure, and also then here for your elbow, optional Harman Kardon sound system, or in the higher trims. Steering wheel is also animal-free meanwhile, so they use alternative materials and they feel very good. They're also the same way in the durability. These seats here are the ones with microfiber, also completely animal-free. You have different stylings available. You also, for example, get a high-grade leatherette. Now not only in black, but also in the bright styling now. That is also one of the news. Then it's actually a comfortable seating position. And with 189, 602, you still have some headroom left. This one also equipped with a panoramic roof. It is actually one, first of all, it goes all the way through. Then you have this shade with a slider in the front. There we go. But you can see you still have this split here. And that means that this is also still one you can actually really open. Then this cockpit perspective, really clean. Front part here, soft touch, also with a nice structure. Then you have this topography landscape. That's what it's supposed to be. Glove box here slides down also, yeah, soft enough. That's actually fine. Then you have this vertical screen layout still. A lot of high gloss black around. That's not so good, I feel. But you still have a home button. That's, I think, a good thing. At least have one button. And also manual volume jog with nice clicking sound. However, here the climate unit always has to be done inside the screen right here, but it has a good overview. It has this Google built in, so you have Google Maps built in like this. That works very well. Nice integration, also quick enough. Let me deactivate it for the vent sound. And you still have, for example, Apple CarPlay connection, so you can still do that, or then have here access to the settings, which is also interesting because here in the driving settings you can activate the performance mode. Doing that while driving is not that easy. And then you can also switch here on one pedal driving, off or auto. Then it only does recuperation when there's a vehicle in front of you. Here, by the way, when I put in an address that is a little bit far away, charging suggested. So this infotainment system also suggests where and when to charge. Middle console is an inductive charging pad, not cooled, so the phone does overheat. 2 USB-C charger. And then you have adaptive cup holders here in the front. That's nice. And this is just like, like drive, reverse, P, easy solution. Then this armrest, well attached, more space underneath. And then you have this trash bin right here. You can put in trash like this. And you can also put the whole thing out like this. Driver POV, still manual controls at the steering wheel, physical, I like that. And then here the digital instruments. You have, for example, this map view, but you can also deactivate it, so what you like. And the speed on the left side, right side gear change, that's all I need. You also have this 360 camera view, but here, why is it black? Yeah, because the side door is open, the passenger door. So if Leah closes the passenger door like this, then you see, then we also have this 360 view. Still, it's kind of small. Usually I prefer the rear view camera, so you can really see when you hit something in the rear. Rear seats, the rear door doesn't open too wide, so for installing child seats and so on, but here nice structure and also soft touch on the top area, and also nice felt covering on the inside of the doors, so I like that. The seats themselves, are they somewhat adjustable? Here you can only unlock them, that's it. But the cool thing is here, I'm not sure if you've seen that before here, this one ultimately goes down then when you press this one. Here, press this, and then this goes down, then it folds like this. And this is actually a very cool thing then, and like this. Then seating here, there's not too much legroom, but it's also not a long vehicle. But here it still works for 4 tall adults. Also headroom wise, here with 189, 602 still works. And here in the middle part, yeah, it's still somewhat okay, but with the knees it gets a problem. So rather for 4 tall adults. And in the middle part here, there are also some adaptive cup holders. Isofix here for the outside rear seats each, and the front seat not only has a top tether, but also Isofix in the front here on the passenger seat. This black color here, by the way, is called Onyx black, and you could also get it without the whole black package if that's maybe too much for you. Trunk or boot, let's take a look. Here, 1.40 meters in width, and the length is about 90 centimeters or 35 inches. So that's actually very well usable. You can also see it here with the luggage setup. Let's clean it up for you. And then this is just a protective cover here on the top. Underneath there's another protective cover. Yeah, and yeah, whatever. You don't have to use it. Underneath you could also store a charging cable if you don't want to use the trunk for that. And here, this one, you can also put it, it's like half split or something. Then yeah, maybe put a backpack in there. That is also possible, like this. For folding the seat, however, you have to go around. You cannot release them from the trunk. There we go. And then it's then like a 1/3 to 2/3 split. But here, goes all the way flat. That is actually very well done. Next to this 410-liter trunk or boot, you can also press a button here and then have a towing hook, even in the electric version, and even here in the all-wheel drive electric version, then maximum 1.8 tons. 1.8 tons is the maximum, which is kind of astonishing for a small electric vehicle. And here, to make use of this full cover here, you can extend it here like this, and then it goes all the way through like this, and you can also turn it around actually for this more rugged side. So if you have something like, you know, maybe like for dogs or for equipment with like water sports, here then this rugged side, which is water repellent. Performance. That was 40 to 80 actually. Wow, that went quick. So this performance upgrade indeed makes sense. Yes, so I mean, the all-wheel drive version in general has a nice punch, but then with the performance upgrade here, even more so. And yeah, you feel that the rear electric motor, it is still a little bit more powerful, but since the front electric motor with the performance upgrade is the one that has the extra boost in comparison to the pure all-wheel drive version, it's also a little bit more balanced in a way, you know, if you know. But then when you are just running straight like here and you're not using so much acceleration, then the front is not being powered. It's just like it's running but without much resistance. So Volvo says it doesn't add more of the consumption and so on. Yeah, we'll see about that later on. But most of the time the rear electric motor is being used. Only if you really punch it through, then also the front one is used, or for example if there is a slip, for example. Yeah, and indeed when I accelerate you feel the performance mode. So when we test it here, standard mode, yeah, it's also very powerful. Once again, performance mode.
A bit more.
Yeah, it is a little bit more, definitely. I mean, it's powerful in both situations. And maybe you've seen it here from the camera perspective, like the front really lifts. There you see that the suspension is also not set on the stiffest note, actually. This frequency adaptive damping works, by the way. So I think for 20-inch wheels mounted, we have good comfort in here. So I really like that. Yeah, it's only here with the modes. I mean, when I'm in the home menu, to get to the driving mode selection, here, this one in the lower part, driving, and then standard or performance. And doing that while driving is not ideal. Most of the time, I would just leave it in the standard mode, I think, and that's it. And then recuperation in the lower part, either you lift your foot off the throttle or the accelerator pedal, just rolling, unless you use the brake pedal for the recuperation. Alternatively, you could do it to on. Then when you lift your foot off the throttle, there's strong recuperation immediately and one pedal driving feeling. So it also reduces speed until 0. Or go to auto. And then the thing is, when I'm leaving my foot here, it's just rolling. Unless there would be a car in front of me, then I would have recuperation. And on the one hand, that's a practical thing. On the other hand, it is less predictable. So as for me, I always like that the car is extremely predictable in what it does, that I know beforehand how the car will react in which situation. And for that, together with the passenger, where you should not apply too much G-force, especially in the electric vehicle, I feel I would rather drive with the off mode, because this comes close to a more smooth driving feeling, and I can finely tune the recuperation than with the brake pedal myself. All of these modes have pros and cons. At the end of the day, it's just a question of which one you prefer. Motorway driving, So for here, around 80 kilometers an hour, well, the asphalt is maybe a little bit rough. I feel it's not too silent here on the interior, so there some of the competitors are definitely more silent. Also here when a car is passing us, it's nice here with the blind spot monitor. There's a great integration right there, system wise, but I feel it's actually quite loud as for the installation. And also then here, assistance systems, you can also activate the active lane keeping assist. There we go. Sometimes I feel the steering movements from the active lane keeping assist are a little bit too hectic. It feels kind of artificial here, there, for example. So also there, you feel that some of the competitors are a little, hold on to the steering wheel, but here also have to apply movement to the steering wheel, so it's not capacitive there at all. So it's okay, I would say, but it's nothing super sophisticated assistance systems wise, let's take it that way. However, in most of the cases, it definitely does the job. What's actually quite cool is that you can easily deactivate the speed limit warning. So if you slightly exceed like only by 1 kilometer, just one click left with the left thumb, speed limit warning turned off, it says here in the infotainment system. So this is very easy to deactivate. So I like that that straight user interface as for that. And by the way, when you hit the turn, here, one more time, when you hit the turning indicator, then also the blind spot monitor is additionally flashing to give you then the additional warning. So that's actually also quite good. Lane change here at 80 kilometers an hour. Suspension is actually quite firm, therefore you also get a nice sporty feedback as for that. And said earlier, here the electric version of the XT40, which is now the EX40, does receive these frequency selective damping. So that means when everything is straight, or if there are like wide waves, then it still stays rather stiff. But if there's like short frequency impact, so like cobblestones, potholes and so on, then they get a little bit softer to offer you more comfort. They are not adaptive in the sense of that if you change the driving mode, it gets stiffer or softer. That's not how these frequency selective damping works. So it's like a passive adaptive suspension. That's how I call it, but not an active one where you can personally influence that with switching the driving mode or so on. So, but I think it's actually working quite well, and it's a very good upgrade. I feel that especially the electric version gained more suspension comfort with this frequency selective dampening update. Consumption today in ideal conditions, and also here in Sweden, rather low speeds, we could score an ideal consumption of around 16 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometer, so like 4 miles per kilowatt hour, and that would give us like closely something to 500 kilometers or 300 miles of real world range. These are indeed ideal conditions for an electric vehicle, also temperature wise and so on. If you now think maybe like really colder winter and also higher speed on the motorway, then you rather go towards 400 kilometers or 250 miles. Pricing starts around 50,000 euros or dollars in the base version, and when you then top it up here, Black Edition, all-wheel drive, performance and so on, high spec, you easily get to around 60,000 US dollars or 70,000 euros. That's not cheap at all. So yes, it is an exclusive premium vehicle. In this case then with the styling, with the power upgrades, also with good performance. And now, since they have switched into the rear electric motor as a predominant drivetrain, also with some more efficiency gains, that it's not, let's say a little bit more efficient than before. Still, if we compare it, for example, to some other competitors, especially of course from Tesla, they are still way more efficient. Then this one here, of course, is a smaller alternative to a Tesla Model Y. What do you think here about the Volvo EX40, as it's called now? Tell me in the comments, and of course, we have more competitors to watch.